All right, so take a few minutes and pause the video, and you can copy down what I have on the screen. So we're going to talk about just solving equations in this unit. So we're going to focus on solving one-step equations first. So a little background on equations. Remember, an equation is a mathematical sentence with an equal sign. And most of these sentences have four different main components. One are numbers. Remember, those are like the coefficients that are in front of our variables, which brings me to my next one is variables like x or y, and operations such as like plus or minus, or operators is what we call them. Remember, those are the symbols and signs, what we're doing with the values. And the very last one that's really important in an equation is that there's got to be an equal sign. So there's got to be an equal sign. So we were talking about expressions last unit, and now we're talking about equations. So the biggest difference between an expression and an equation is that expressions, they don't have equal signs. So expressions don't have equal signs. But equations, think of equations equal, equations do. All right, so we're going to circle below the equations and box in the expressions. So go ahead and pause the video and complete that for me. Remember, expressions and equations. So expressions don't have an equal sign, equations do. So take a minute, pause the video. All right. So we have circled the equations. Remember, equations have equal signs. Looking at this first one, it has an equal sign. So this guy's gotta be an equation. Looking at the next guy, it says box the expressions. Well, this guy doesn't have an equal sign. So that means this guy is gonna be an expression. This guy, does it have an equal sign? No. So this is also going to be an expression. What about this big guy right here? We have this big, long guy, has an equal sign. So since it has an equal sign, it's going to be an equation. So we're going to circle. All right. So taking a look at our next step. So a solution of an equation, is a value of a variable. Remember, we talked about plugging in values for variables. Those are called solutions. It makes an equation true. So when it says an expression like this guy right here equals 11, these two sides are equal, right? If I had x here, I could plug in 2. That means I know x is 2. Here, I could plug in a value for x and figure out if it equals 8. That's going to be a solution to my equation. It's just a variable. It's a number that we plug in for the variable that makes the equation equal. So we can substitute a number for the variable to determine whether or not a number is a solution to the equation. So we talked about evaluating expressions. Now we're going to be talking about evaluating equations. So taking a look at a few examples. So we're going to decide whether or not the given values of is a solution of the corresponding equation. So we're going to make sure to show how we arrived at our choice. So looking at number 1, it says we have 170 plus x equals 200 for x equals 30. So what we're going to do is everywhere we see an x, I'm going to plug in 30. So I'm going to remove that x and I'm going to substitute in and we're going to get 30. So I have 170 plus, now instead of x, I'm going to plug in 30. So I'm taking the x out and I'm plugging in 30 here. And we're still going to bring down the equal sign and bring down that 200. So we're just seeing if the two sides are equal. If the two sides are equal, then my x is 30, is a solution to my equation. So if I take 170 plus 30, I'm going to get 200. So since 200 is equal to 200, my two sides are equal, then x equals 30, 30 is a solution to my equation. So we can say, yes, this is a solution. So don't let this next guy confuse you. So we're taking a look at this guy over here. The two sides are switched, but we're still trying to see that when I take out this a value here and I plug in 6 in for my a, I want to see if my two sides are equal. That's how I can figure out if my solution, if this variable is a solution to my equation. So I'm going to bring down my 3, bring down my equal sign, bring down my 12, bring down my minus, and instead of a, I'm going to plug in 6. And I'm going to simplify this right-hand side. So I have 3, because that side didn't change. Bring down my equal sign. If I take 12 minus 6, I get 6. Does 3 equal 6? No, it most definitely doesn't. So if it doesn't equal on both sides, then a equals 6 is not a solution to my equation. So this is a no. All right, so you can use Desmos for this as well. And I'll bring up my Desmos calculator for you. That way you can see it. All right, so look at this next one. We have 36 over 3 minus m equals 8 over 3. And we want m to be 6. So what we're going to do is take out my m, and I'm going to plug in 6. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to substitute in my solution. So I'm going to check it. So I'm going to take 26 over 3 minus, instead of m, we're going to plug in 6. Bring down that equal sign and bring down that 8 over 3. So I'm going to take 26. And you can do this in your calculator, 26 over 3 minus 6. And we get 2.6 repeating. And see this little guy right here? It can change a decimal into a fraction. So I have 8 over 3 is equal to 8 over 3. Since both sides are equal, m equals 6 is a solution to my equation. Okay, so let's take a look at this next y. So here we have 8 plus t equals 2t, for t equals 3. So I'm going to take out, everywhere I see a t, I'm going to take it out and plug in 3. Well, look, I have 2 t's here. Remember, when two things are side by side, they're being multiplied together. So I'm going to bring down my 8, bring down my plus. Instead of t, I'm going to plug in 3. Bring down my equal sign, bring down my 2. Now, two different ways of doing this. You can add the times in between, or you can just take it out and put it in parentheses. That works too. Either way, because these are side by side, they're multiplied together. So if I take 8 plus 3 into my calculator here, 8 plus 3, well, that gives me 11. So I'm going to simplify the left-hand side, bring down my equal sign, and I'm going to take 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 gives me 6. Does 11 equal 6? Most definitely not. So this is not a solution. So what I want you to do is go on to the IXL and complete that first IXL called, does x satisfy an equation? I want you to only get to a 40, all right?